has been a tremendous amount of talented people that have been presented here today, and all very deserving. And I'm just glad that the NEAR board decided to save the best for last. That's how I feel about it anyway. It's just like having dessert after dinner. It's just the best part. And that's what it was like watching Billy Greco drive a race car. I came to realize that Billy Greco was something special back in the days. Now, I talk about back in the days of Riverside Park. People up here have spoken about how tough a place Stafford was, and Norwood, and on and on and on. But let me tell you, Riverside Park was about as tough as they come. There was 4 heats, there was 2 semis, there was a consi, there was a B consi, and maybe you got into the main and you started from the rear of a handicapped field. And it was tough racing. And the park was just a special place to be on Saturday nights for somebody growing up in the sport. It was a tough place. Drivers had their own sections in the grandstand. You had to keep them separated, and it was for a good reason, because it kind of cut down on the arrests and the hospitalizations. But Billy Greco, when he pulled that 43 out onto the track, whether it was for practice or for heat race or whatever, I mean, you knew just where the people stood. I mean, half of them would stand up and they'd be yelling and screaming and cheering just like the troops had come home from the war. And the other half, well, they were probably yelling some insults and throwing stuff, and it was just plain pandemonium. But I thought it was great. I mean, I'd never seen anything like it in my life. Probably never seen anything like that since. For years on a Saturday night, I never even had a date. You just couldn't miss Riverside Park. Billy Greco was the king of the Connecticut gang there, most of whom had names ending in vowels. There was Cambino, Godiosi, Galulu, Centenaro, Carangelo, Toro, on and on and on. But when I got to be 16 years old and got to go down and visit a little bit with the drivers, I met Billy Greco. And in the years that followed, Billy took me places that I had dreamed about and read about in the pages of Illustrated Speedway News back when that was the only racing paper around. I mean, I saw him drive for the Garuti brothers and their famous cars at Stafford and Thompson. I traveled the All-Star League circuit with Billy and went to many tracks throughout the Northeast for years. I went to Trenton and Langhorne, some of the tracks in Jersey like Old Bridge and Rich Bedoin's 500. But most importantly, I guess, and the thing I know Billy best of all for, and I'm sure many of you do, is the red Meadow Flake Coupe number 43 he drove for his brother George. Well, it was a red Meadow Flake Coupe most of the time. One year, the car was better known as the Pink Panther, which there's a story behind that. And I guess George had decided that the car didn't show up that good on the racetrack, so he told the guy that was going to paint the car, well, we want to make it white this year. Well, that was all right. They got some white paint. Billy went into the garage the next night and heard that it was going to be white, and he says, that's not going to work. This car has always been red metal flake, and that's what it's going to be. Go get some red metal flake paint. So the guy who was going to paint the car didn't know what to do. He had the white paint in one hand, he had the red paint on the other. So that night he mixed the two of them together, sprayed the car, voila, pink. And there was the Pink Panther. I'm not shy about saying that Bill Greco was my hero as a driver, but he became more than that as I knew him longer and longer. It was obvious to anybody that he had exceptional talent as a racer, but he was also a genuine person, one who was always willing to help out a friend or family member in times of need. Billy drove truck for a living for many years. He might get home at 4 in the morning from driving truck and he'd get a call from somebody in distress, like the time one guy had a trailer come apart on the George Washington Bridge. That would be Mario Fiore and myself. Called to Billy Greco and he was right there to help. He was a little late getting here today, and I figured it was because somebody called and broke down on 91 someplace and Billy went to get him. I mean, the numbers detailing Billy's accomplishments are tremendous. There's the park championships, the fact that he won a race at every track hosting modifieds in the state of Connecticut, on and on and on. They're all written down in the program. But what I'd like to add to that is Billy Greco, as I know him, was and is a personable, unassuming, and wonderful guy. Some people later on in his career used to call him Gramps. I called him Dad because, in reality, in my youth, Billy Greco was like a second father to me. I was speaking with Ralph Solem the other day, another fellow that Billy has driven for, and I think he put it best. He said, Billy Greco never had a big head. He just left a big footprint on New England racing. In my mind, there was no one better in his prime than Billy Greco, and that's why we're honoring him here today. So, Bill, you are the best. Come on up here.
Billy, back up a little bit. Okay, now smile. I'm old. Got the other plaque. Dean, give him the other plaque. Oh, I'm sorry.
Now, as you come up after dinner and you have a look at these plaques, I want you to particularly note the headshot of
For your own law.
Billy
Yeah,
Greco.
you wear proudly. And here's your commemorative program, label number 128.
Thank you.
Thanks, Billy. Great job.
That work?
Mike,
Billy.
thank you. I just want to thank everybody. I really ain't a speaker or nothing, but there's so many people that I wanted to thank. All the owners that I drove for, different cars. My brother, George, was right here, and Richard Bedoin from the 500. The guys that worked on the car through the years. I just want to thank everybody, all my fans that stuck with me. And near. Every time I wave at Mike on the television, he never waves back at me. My wife and my family that stuck by me. If I wasn't racing, I was working. I thought they knew where I was. Had a good times, a lot of good times. I could sit here, stand here all night and talk about different races and different things that I did or what I didn't do. All the competitors that I raced against, a lot of them are right here. I want to congratulate them all. Booker, especially. You want your wrench back? I'll get it anytime you want it. I think my brother still got it. I want to thank all the drivers that I raced against, too, that they backed off on me to let me win, you know, to let me get ahead of them. They used to put all our numbers on the wall, but they used to put the 43 in the dirt in the back. That's how far down I was all the time. Heats, semis, features, all dead last. Today, they start on the pole. I think they're trying to get the guy that's running last. But whatever, it's all over. I enjoyed it. I met the best people in the world in the racing business. Everybody treated me good, and I try to treat them just as good as they treated me. Thank you for everything.